Hello and welcome to a short exploration of exactly what our aims are with our assignments in this course. So I've titled the recording, Why Two Papers? A question I get a lot in session 4 is, wait a minute, my outline has to be on a new topic. How am I supposed to do all of this work again in just 2 sessions? So I want to walk you through what that looks like and why it is not as bad as you think it is. So let's look at our assignments as pieces of a whole, not as individual standalone ideas, but as elements that together lead to amazing growth and work. So in this particular slide, I have session 1 through session 4, outlining your first paper. So session 1, in your discussion thread, you're going to be doing a library tour, and as an individual assignment, you're going to be writing an outline. Session 2, you analyze resources and you write your first draft. Session 3, you explore truth and research. We start to look at bias and statistics, and you write your second draft. Finally, for your first paper, in session 4, we look at patterns of organization and what sort of formatting styles people are using, and we write our final draft. But looking at our new topic, when we look at session 4, we're writing a brand new outline, and in session 5, we're writing a brand new paper. All of that crammed into just 2 assignments after you've seen on the previous slide that we have 4 weeks for the others. So let's look at the details here. In session 1, we're doing our group work as a library tour. We're learning about academic resources and we're gathering them. We're beginning to understand how to find them and what to do with them. We're writing our first outline. That is an opportunity to use the resources that we have gathered and to start creating a thesis. In session 2, we start to analyze resources using worksheets. We are evaluating what is available and what elements we need to look for. We're also starting to look at what our research is saying in terms of when I read an article, when I read a book, what is the thesis? What is the main point? What is the conclusion? What does the author want me to do with the information? We're taking those ideas and we are applying them to writing our very first draft. It's about 2 to 3 pages. We're going to incorporate 3 academic resources, and it's essentially a beginning. It's a start to a conversation that you and I will have as we go through each draft, discussing what you're doing and how you should best accomplish that. When we move into session 3, we start to look at a different side of what our research has shown us. We start to say, what's going on with statistics? Are they saying what we think they're saying? What sort of biases do people have? And how can we still gain really valuable knowledge while understanding that bias exists? We're evaluating truth, and hopefully we understand to a deeper level the aim of research and the value of research. We're also writing our second draft. You're taking the comments that I've made on your outline, on your first draft, and you're applying them to your second draft, and you're growing it. You're going to add 2 additional resources. You're going to focus on what your introduction and conclusion look like. You're going to work on transitioning from each paragraph to the next, and maybe your paper is going to start to grow. You had 2 to 3 pages. Now that you start to add information, that you're adding resources, you're adding details, you're growing as a writer, your paper should start to increase. Finally, you're going to write your final draft, but not quite yet. You're going to start looking at things like patterns of organization. When you look at this, you may say, well, why didn't we learn this first? Well, as we write, the human mind loves to organize. It loves to gather facts and nicely catalog them. So you're going to see, as you look at these patterns and types, that you've been doing these things. But now that you've been doing them, you're going to learn more about them and you're going to learn how to best utilize them. So you're going to figure out, which one do I really want to use? Am I using more than one? Is that really the best way? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So you're going to start looking for those structures. And again, as you learn each of these elements, look at what you're reading. What is that author you like doing? How is that author organizing? What types of patterns is that author utilizing? And of course, you're writing your final draft. In this draft, we're going to focus on editing versus proofreading, 2 very different things, but both very helpful and useful. And we're going to look for ways to polish our final draft. So 4 sessions, an outline, 2 drafts, and then our final paper. That's a lot to go into one single paper. And now we're going to ask you to do something hard. In session 4, we're going to say, guess what? We wanted you to take all of these ideas, all of these concepts, all of this knowledge that you've learned and begun to apply, and we want you to do it again. We want to pick a brand new topic. So if you've written about emojis being like Egyptian hieroglyphics, I don't want you to write a paper about how emojis are not like Egyptian hieroglyphics. You've got to take it somewhere new and different because you're going to start this whole process again. You're going to write a new outline for a new topic. You're going to practice things like research and your thesis and your main points. And in session 5, you're going to give me that final paper. You're going to be writing it, you're going to be editing it, you're going to be proofreading it. So the big question that people have is, if I spent 4 weeks working on a paper, it's not going to look the same as this paper that I only have a week and a half, 2 weeks for. How can I possibly pass the course? I can't do all of that work to that same level in just 2 short weeks. So should your paper look like a very first draft? Should it look like a final draft? No, it should look like something in the middle. It should be taking the knowledge that you have and maybe looking more like a second draft, maybe looking more polished, but still not to the extent of an absolute final draft where we have discussed it back and forth 3, 4 different times. Instead, you're supposed to kind of make some progress from a first draft, but also not be achieving final draft status. So look at that as the opportunity to try out all of these techniques. You've had the opportunity to sort of look at each draft and consider a new angle, and now you're going to be doing more angles at a time as you work on that final paper. But again, when I'm grading it, I'm not looking at it thinking, oh, this should look like a final draft after 4 sessions. Instead, I recognize that you've written an outline and gotten some feedback from me on your thesis, on your references, but that's it. That's the only feedback I'm usually able to give you at that point. And this is you taking that leap and trying to apply all of the ideas that we've discussed. So I expect growth, but I do not expect perfection. So as we go through the course, be thinking about the fact that all of these ideas are ideas that you are going to apply to a brand new paper in the last 2 sessions.